So my article was called Mother's Intrinsic Motivation, Arithmetic Skills, and Math Anxiety in the Elementary School. And this article was found on the Frontiers in Psychology website. So my article was basically about math anxiety and the factors that influence it, and what even creates this anxiety in students in schools. So it started out talking about how our society today really relies heavily on jobs that involve math, like technology, engineering, and really any jobs that consist of math, which is a lot. So we need to make sure that as future teachers that we focus on math, and that we really make students feel comfortable with it, so we can have a lot of future students that can go into these jobs that we are relying on. So math anxiety is a negative reaction to anything such as numbers, calculations, anything that really consists of math. So math anxiety, studies show that it increases from the upper elementary to high school. So somewhere in between, students are not feeling comfortable with math and they're feeling a little anxious about it. And as students as young as first grade are found with math anxiety, which really shocked me. It also talked about intrinsic motivation, which is that students learn for his or her own sake, that they're motivated themselves and want to actually understand and push themselves harder. And this is actually a predictor on later math anxiety, because if students have a lot of intrinsic motivation, they most likely won't have math anxiety, because if they're pushing themselves to learn the content and they're comfortable with it, they most likely are going to get it as the content gets harder. Another thing that influences math anxiety is parent behaviors, and this is a really big one. Just the attitudes that their parents have towards math influences the students a lot. Just making sure that parents are being encouraging, helpful during homework, and also that they're motivating them as well. Because some parents just think that if they were bad at math, then it's obvious that their child is going to be bad at it as well, and that's definitely not true. And that only just doesn't really help the child at all when they hear that. So after reading this article, it has encouraged me to make sure that my future classroom, I really help students try to create a love for math, and also try to make it fun and not something that they're anxious about or not looking forward to. So to do this, I need to create a calming environment. So I could do this by not having a lot of time tests and make it stressful, like have a lot of competitions, and just focus on the student and if they're actually understanding the material that I'm trying to teach. And another thing I could do is, when students are doing their work, I can be constantly walking around, being available to answer questions. So if students aren't getting the information, they can just ask me. Another thing that I really want to implement in my classroom is making sure that students understand and are confident in the foundational skills first before we move on in the class. Because if they don't understand the first foundation concept, they most likely won't be able to do the next step or have any confidence in it. So just making sure that they are confident on those foundational skills is very important as well. So by doing this, I want to do a step-by-step approach. So when teaching a math concept, I'd go, okay, here are the steps that we're going to do, and that's how you get the answer. But first, we're going to work on the first step. And then I would explain the step, have the students practice it, provide my help, and then have them do it on their own, kind of a scaffolding method as well. So they are confident in that, and that they build from each step, so I know that everybody's getting it and that we're on the same pace. Another thing I want to do is make sure that students actually understand what they're learning. This wasn't the case for most of my math classes. I was told, here's the math problem, here's the steps, get the answer, there you go. You have to memorize it. But I never really understood why do I do these steps. I was never told that. So just telling the students and making sure they understand what they're even doing and what they're looking at is really important and something I want to have in my classroom. And I want to be able to have that positive talk with my students. I don't want to say things like, oh, it's okay, everybody struggles on these. Everybody is not really good at these problems. I want to say, yes, this is challenging, but with hard work, I know you can do it. And just be encouraging and trying to push my students harder to achieve what they can. So that is what I learned about math anxiety and how I want to help implement it in my classroom.